And I say, wow, okay, this is the man with the plan. This is the man that he's in an industry, very niche, but at the same time still, he's an executor. He's able to do what is it that when you look at a Zuckerberg, when you look at a Bill Gates, when you look at a Warren Buffett, you see the guys that are right there ensuring them. Not because, oh, Chris is a big shot or the next guy's a big shot. It's really, well, Chris, can you do the policy? Yeah. Then I just need you to do the policy for $100 million. Can you do that? Yeah. Okay, that's why you have a big check. Am I right, Chris?
You're right.
You know, it's not, Chris is not out of the realm of $100 million write check status, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris's business, and so excuse me, all right, I'm back. Sharing with individuals, you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, sharing with individuals that are making $100K like Warren Buffett, that are insuring his money privately like a private elite is doing, like all elite are doing, insuring his money privately. But individuals that don't have that capital, they don't do that. And so the only difference is Chris is one of those individuals that I'm cool with. I have a public page with the vault, and so we can bring on elite individuals that can help elite individuals out, that helps elite individuals out, and is here to say, hey, ladies and gentlemen, for all you all that are just generally in the public, guess what? We're just going to have an entrepreneur general conversation, a human citizen conversation. It is insurance policies. We can talk about it. He has his certifications and his licenses. Let's talk about it. And this is the conversation. There are banking policies going on right in front of your eyes every single day. And that's in the public, not just in the public, it's in the private too. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the type of information that the vault and the private sector is dealing with. Information that's operating in the public, but it's still private. That's why they call them private corporations. That's why they call them private everything. It's private. But they do have a public side to it. So thank you, Chris, for, like I say, giving your time, coming out of the private and talking about these things in the public, creating history, man, for our families, and just letting them know that, even though we are private men, we understand that, but we also encourage other individuals to engage in private practices such as what we call private banking. Having an insurance policy is a form of private banking because the contract is private. These are simple things that certain individuals know, but we're sharing it and putting that information in a public perspective because it even goes deeper than what we're talking about. Am I right, Chris?
You're right.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, any parting words, Chris, for us?
No, I just look to hear from you guys. Any questions? I'm here for you. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you all for listening. If we have any last minute questions, we'll take those. But other than that, thank you all. Facebook Live for listening, YouTube, and then iTunes. I definitely wanted to make it a point to get this episode on all the platforms, and so just thank you all for tuning live. But Chris is someone, like I said, to have great connections with, and I know individuals out here. We're living in a time today, ladies and gentlemen, where ladies and gentlemen, you all haven't seen a recession in 10 years. How good does it get? The stock market's at an all-time high. How good does it get? And the only people that are drunk on dollars is the Fed. It's not the people. Because think about it, Chris, are people's wages going up?
Yeah, right.
And I'm talking about like beating inflation status, ladies and gentlemen. Like yearly. Like more than $2, more than $5.
No.
And so, you're talking about masses of people, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, it's just an opportunity for you to better your family. Do something for your family. Create a legacy. You live in America. Thank you all for tuning in live.
To another. But when you're traveling from one country to another, you do not need a passport, and those countries will tell you you don't. Depends on what you call yourself. You understand? Okay. Why do we have colorable law and colorable courts? During the Civil War, the Moors went to war against each other. Now, we destroyed ourselves in this. The Europeans did not come here and bring us down. We did that from inside, and they capitalized on the carnage. Do you understand? All of these buildings all around here, as I told in class last night, they're ours. They belong to us. They're ancient, these buildings. There's a whole city underneath this city. They've been burned all the major cities, the major energy centers on this globe we call an earth. Our ancestors set up these energy centers that we call Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Detroit, right? Chicago, Miami, Phoenix, Los Angeles. They are energy centers. They're not where they are in huge, large cities just because of some coincidence. There's energy and power in these places. London, Rio de Janeiro, all right? And by the way, we're going to spell it like this, Rio de. Which is a normal title of the Moors, Rio de Janeiro. You understand? This thing is worldwide. This flag that we carry with the red flag, with the 5-pointed green star, with the pointing up, all right? It's a worldwide flag. It's recognized all around the world, all right? So, the reason we have colorable courts and colorable law is because during the Civil War, when the Moors warred against each other, there were those who agreed to participate in the game called the corporate ward game. And there were many who made a lot of money. They got a commission on everybody they got to sign a birth certificate, because the birth certificate is a contract that puts you in slavery. And they got money. William Penn got very rich, all right? All the Quakers got very rich. All the abolitionists got very rich on this Civil War ward state game. Robert Morris and a lot of these buildings that are named after these people in downtown Philadelphia became multi-millionaires, and their ancestors are still wealthy today over the corporate ward game. All right? Now, the reason that we have to have colorable law and colorable courts is because so many of us agree to be slaves. We don't need colorable courts and colorable law otherwise. But the people who agree to be bound by the 14th Amendment, which covers civil rights, which covers Negroes and African Americans and Jews and Hispanics and Indians and all these people like that, if you agree to call yourself that, they have to create a statute that applies to you because the law doesn't apply to you. So it's not their fault. It's the fault of the people who agree to be outside of their sovereign capacity. Okay? And now, if you walk in and you want to reestablish it, they're at odds because they're not accustomed to people walking in who are conscious and sovereign. You can't separate the two.
Cent a year and then they say the prices are increasing. That is a blatant lie. Our money is depreciated. That is what they are doing. So next to the interest rate, we find to be normal, is inflation another way, and inflation is theft. So they extract value in multiple ways. Now we are talking about the financial mechanism the elite uses to extort value through a financial monetary system, an economic system. They do so through the banks. The banks being the key to this process. We are talking about BSN, Citizen Service Number. I sometimes say service. I think, is it a citizen service number or a citizen slavery number? If people realize where we find ourselves and see we are in a rat race of competition and scarcity, they should research the financial system that only services to better the rich and keep the poor miserable. Interest, a take-home message, interest. According to statistics calculated by economists, is paid by 80% of the people during their entire lifetime. 10% receives some interest and pays some, and the other 10% only receives interest. So this already illustrates the problem at hand. The main portion of humans pays the system their entire lives, and a small portion takes from the system. National debt, over the last 30 years we pay 13 billion in interest per year for national debt. From the taxes paid by citizens, 13 billion of this created money goes to privately owned banks. This again based on money, created out of nothing, with a contract of debt in which our state happily engages. The government happily plays along and pays the privately owned banks the usage fees. If we would keep this 13 billion a year, average over 30 years, we would not need to economize anymore. So when people realize this seemingly innocent interest rate is actually the big corrupter causing all the trouble. Moreover, when the Catholics were still ruling Europe, interest rates were illegal and punishable by death. The death penalty for charging interest. It is a biggie in holy books as it is described.
It is actually still illegal.
Yes, Islamic banking. Unfortunately, nowadays several new calculation models are established which is also a form of interest charging. But the pure Islamic banking was the last to stay away from charging interest. The funny thing about Islamic banking is that 50% of the people are Islamic at all. It is a purely ethical, morally, based on principle decisions to bank without interest rates. These people are aware of the damage it causes.
Meanwhile politicians look away. I understood the Court of Audit does not even have access to what ECB does.
No. They are privately owned organizations and have so much authority and protection that they don't require anything at all.
Then what is the Court of Auditors and the government doing in our names?
These kinds of institutions serve the political system. For example, the elections, they calculated budgets of parties and their plans. You could use it for good, but